Hello friends, my name is Jaya Krishna Kapoor, and today I'll be going to take you through the most heated topic, especially for the direct tax professionals, and yes, no prizes for guessing. It is Faceless Assessment Scheme. So I'll be discussing about the whole background of this scheme, which are the organizations involved, what are their functions, what is the procedure of the scheme, and what are the recent developments of the scheme. So, government had this idea of a faceless assessment scheme back since 2015. So yes, it took its own sweet time of 5 years to actually implement it. But ठीक है, देर आए दुरुस्त आए. So in 2015, they had started issuing email-based notices, questionnaires, and other sort of communication to the assessees by the pilot project running 7 metro cities. Then in Finance Act 2016, they amended the Income Tax Act. Section 282 of the Income Tax Act describes the manner of issuing notice. Now, after the amendment, this section includes notice issued via electronic medium. Earlier, it was just restricted to paper mode. Then, in 2018, precisely on 2nd February 2018, the CBDT came up with an instruction which required the income tax authorities to complete all the pending proceedings via the email-based communication. However, they provided some sort of leverage where there were practical impediments and the email-based assessment could not be completed. Then, in Finance Act 2019, the Finance Minister introduced the e-assessment scheme. Eventually, in September 2019, this scheme was duly notified. Now, on 13th of August 2020, the Honorable Prime Minister, Bhaiyo and Behno, has improvised this e-assessment scheme to faceless assessment scheme. And yes, we are all set to jump into the actual go-live position from 25th September 2020 onwards in this e-assessment scheme. So, what are the bodies involved in this scheme? There are around 6 bodies as of now. First is National E-Assessment Center. Second is Regional E-Assessment Center. Third is Assessment Unit. Fourth is Verification Unit. Fifth is Technical Unit. And sixth is Review Unit. All these bodies and organizations will have their own respective functions. Like the National E-Assessment Center and Regional E-Assessment Center will act as supervising bodies. They will conduct the whole supervision of the process, whether it is being conducted as per the prescribed norms or not. Assessment unit will work at the ground level. It will conduct the whole proceedings. Whereas the verification unit will acquire the information required like recording of statements, cross-examination or third-party confirmations. Like even in manual proceedings, sometimes the income tax department require third-party confirmations. Like it is in case of bogus purchases, the assessee has exaggerated its expense side of the P&L, and in that case, the income tax department sometimes used to send intimations to the creditors that whether the balances of the assessee is outstanding in their books is a similar amount to which the assessee has shown in his books. So such kind of confirmations will be taken care by verification unit. The technical unit will provide technical guidance. These technical guidances will not just be limited to information technology, but it could be valuation related expertise or forensic audit or accounting proficiency. The review unit will conduct the review of the order released by assessment unit. It might suggest some legal aspects or the factual points which assessment unit might have not considered while framing the order. So these are the functions of the various bodies as of now. Now, what will be the procedure of this e-assessment proceedings? The income tax department is always in full swing to lunch the assessee, and this time in virtual mode. So the NEC will issue a notice under section 143(2) of the Income Tax Act to the assessee to initiate these proceedings. Section 143(2) notice is a notice generally known as notice for scrutiny assessment. This notice intimates the assessee that his case has been selected for scrutiny assessment via the computer aided audit scheme, which is CAS. And in case he requires some other information to be provided to the income tax department to conclude the proceedings, which is already not there on the records, he can do so. So once this notice is issued by NEC, the assessee will have to revert back to this notice within 15 days. Now, the NEC, once he receives the response from assessee, he will allocate this case to any regional assessment center. Mark my word, any regional assessment center. Now, what we feel that this e-assessment scheme or this faceless assessment scheme per se is a beneficial scheme for the assessee. It would be less cumbersome and less cases of bribery will be there. Yes, we acknowledge that, but it will also be beneficial for the income tax department. And how? Firstly, in manual proceedings, many times the case used to get quashed at a later stage of proceeding due to minor defects, like the notice of proceeding was issued to a wrong address or it was addressed to a wrong name just because the PAN database was not updated. But now, through this faceless assessment scheme, this notice will be simply issued to the email registered on the e-filing portal, and the assessee will have the ultimate onus that this email address is correct and verified, and in case it is not, then the proceedings cannot be quashed for this minute reason. Secondly, that the income tax department is saying this case can be allocated to any regional assessment center. This is also one catch point for the income tax department, because earlier in manual proceedings, the case used to get allotted to the jurisdictional assessing officer, and once the case is selected for scrutiny assessment, the assessee is informed about this initiation of proceedings. Assessee used to hire a chartered accountant or a lawyer as a authorized representative, and these lawyers and chartered accountants have usually good rapport with the jurisdictional assessing officer because they deal with them day in, day out. So they had that some scope of manipulation in the actual order. So now that the income tax department is saying this case can be allocated to any regional assessment center, so the cases of manipulation or orders through unfair means can be reduced to a minuscule level. However, it's good until it's done, but we can expect that this scheme will give its due benefits to both the assessee and the income tax department. So now coming back to the procedure, that the case is allocated to any regional assessment center, the regional assessment center will again allocate this case to assessment unit falling under its jurisdiction. Assessment unit, while framing the assessment, might require some information, maybe through the assessee, or any cross-examination is required, or third-party confirmation is required, or it might require some technical guidance. It will provide these requirements to NEC. Now, the NEC will ask the assessee to provide the required information, or the verification unit to conduct the verification, or the technical unit to provide technical guidance. This allocation to the verification unit and technical unit will be all through automated allocation system, and manual intervention is expected to be at a very low level. So now, once the information is provided by the assessee, the verification unit, and the technical unit to the assessment unit via NEC, the assessment unit will frame a draft assessment order, and it will pass the draft assessment order to NEC to take the final action. NEC will have three options. Either he could just release a final order on the basis of this draft order. Otherwise, he can ask the assessee to show cause his case, that why any adverse action or a certain course of action should not be taken against him. Thirdly, he can ask the review unit to come into picture and review the unit or the order. The first two cases are quite clear, but in the third case, when the review unit comes into picture, again, दो बातें हो सकती है. review unit can either concur with the findings of assessment unit, that what the assessment unit has framed is absolutely okay to go ahead, or he can provide some considerations to be taken care of, like some legal aspects or factual matrix which was probably not considered by the assessment unit while framing the order. Now, once these considerations or recommendations by the review unit reaches the assessment unit via NEC, assessment unit will again frame an order and it will again provide to NEC. Now, NEC, again, in case the order is prejudicial to the assessee, that is, it is against the assessee, he can provide a reasonable opportunity of being heard to the assessee, or he can simply issue a final order on the basis of this draft order. Now, during the proceedings, in case there is any personal communication required between the income tax department or the assessee, then the only mode prescribed is video conferencing. However, in case video conferencing is not feasible, then telecommunication is the mode. And also, all the communications which will be conducted on behalf of the income tax department will be in the name of NEC. Also, the assessee, when he is required to upload any information, he will provide that information on the income tax portal. He will upload that information. And each time he uploads that information, he will have to authenticate using digital signature or EDC. EDC, we all are aware, like in order to file income tax return or GST return, we generally have to input an OTP to authenticate that return. In a similar manner, in this case also, once the assessee uploads the information, he will have to authenticate using an OTP or digital signature. And once the information is uploaded, he will get a hash result, which will intimate him that the information has been successfully uploaded. Now, once the assessment is completed, all the information gathered during the proceedings and the final assessment order will be transferred to the jurisdictional assessing officer by the NEC. Now, to conduct the balance formalities like issuing of notice of demand or releasing of refund or initiation of prosecution proceedings. Also, there is a provision that the NEC can transfer this case to the jurisdictional assessing officer even during the proceedings. But yes, he cannot do it at his own free will. He will have to suffice certain prescribed criteria, which is, yes, as of now not prescribed by the department. He can transfer this case to the jurisdictional assessing officer. And once the assessment is completed, the whole assessment is completed, the assessee can appeal back against this case to the jurisdictional CIT appeals, Commissioner of Income Tax, which was also the case in manual proceedings as well. So this is the whole process how the e-assessment or faceless assessment scheme will be performed. Now, what are the recent developments in this scheme? As of now, the NEC is supposedly will be situated in Delhi, and there will be around 20 regional e-assessment centers in the whole country. Thirdly, we are also hearing that the transfer pricing cases and the penalty cases could also be routed through faceless assessment scheme at a later stage. Also, we have heard that the digital behavior of the assessee will be marked with his case. Now, what does that mean? In manual proceedings, many a times when the assessee was asked to furnish certain information, he used to easily seek for an adjournment or for a partial adjournment for that matter. कि sir, अभी तो ना इतनी ही information है, बाकी ना मैं आपको next time दे दूँगा. So this sometimes led to time barring assessments, and venue would ultimately lose. But now, mapping the digital behavior of the assessee and taking note of the adjournments taken by him will actually help the income tax department to take proactive actions in case it is required, so that it does not lead to time barred assessment. So yes, this is the whole idea of faceless assessment scheme, and we hope that this scheme will give its due benefits to both the assessee and the income tax department, and the suffer of faceless assessment scheme will be good and feasible. And yes, this suffer is not of English suffer but Hindi suffer. Thank you, people, for watching this session, and I hope I had tried to cover all the points and give you the required information. In case of any query, please feel free to revert and comment in the comment section. Thank you.